Good evening. Tonight we're going to use the Mixed Bunch stamp set from the Occasions Mini. I love these stamps, especially that one on the lower left-hand corner. It's my favorite. We're going to work with that stamp set tonight. We are going to mount them all on clear box. We're going to use 3 inks. We're going to use Blushing Bride, more mustard, which you can replace with Daffodil Delight if you'd like, and Wisteria Wonder. So a lot of our ink colors. Then I'm going to use a piece of watercolor paper at 5.5 at 3 inches. And my base is going to be a standard card size Pear Pizzaz base. And what we're going to do to dress up the base is we're going to use the square Lattice embossing folder, run the whole front of the card through the big shot so that we end up with the front of our base being textured. And I really like this look. And you can pick whichever embossing folder you like. You'll see at the end I have some pictures with a different folder used as well. I'm going to use shimmer paint in some alcohol and water that I've put into a small mixing jar. And this is what I will use to wet my stamps for this watercolor technique. I'm going to use our temporary tape runner to secure this down to my grid paper so it doesn't move on me, because I like to stamp off the edges and so I don't want the paper to move. So I love that temporary snail adhesive. So I'm going to start with the Wisteria Wonder, and I inked up my stamp really well, and now I'm going to spray it down with the shimmer paint, alcohol, and water. Now you could also just use water. Another thing I like to use is glimmer mist, but just make sure the stamp is wet. You want it wet so that when you stamp it down, it kind of blurs. You do want it to blur because it gives you a nice little watercolor effect. So you can see there, I could have got it a little bit wetter, but I like the blurry effect, so I'm actually purposely trying to get it wet enough to blur. And then I'm going to use just a wipey to clean it, but you can definitely use your scrubbing pad to clean your stamps in between. You have to clean it each time because you're changing colors. Now I'm going to use more mustard, same story. I'm going to spray it down with the shimmer paint and the liquid really well, and then it's wet, and I'm going to put it in a different area. And you can mix this around. No reason that you have to match this layout. You know, move the stamps around any way you'd like. What I'm doing as I'm laying them down is leaving room for my sentiment. So kind of plan ahead what sentiment you're going to use, because then you'll know how much space you need to leave white, so you have some room for that sentiment. I'm purposely going from dark to light because I want my lightest colors near the sentiment. And you'll see why as we stamp that down later. So this is the last color. I think this is the Blushing Bride. Again, I'm going to spray it down so that it's wet. And then I'm going to put that down towards the bottom somewhere. And you can also notice that I'm stamping less and less of the stamp. So I did the whole stamp, then I did like 2/3 of the stamp, and then the last one is probably the smallest amount of the stamp that's showing on the paper. And then I'm going to wipe that down. Now I'm going to get the little circles from the stamp set, and I'm going to use the largest circle first with the first color, which is Wisteria Wonder. I'm just trying to mix the colors around so that 2 colors aren't the same next to each other. Again, I'm going to wet that down, and I'm going to come back and stamp that in one of the corners, right down there. And I don't know, something said stamp off too. So without doing any inking or spraying, I just stamped off again over in the corner to give a little sparkle of that color on the other side. I'm thinking of triangles and balance, so you'll see the Wisteria Wonder is in a triangle shape in the way I stamped it. So then I'm going to add a little bit more Blushing Bride up to the top. You might want to add a little bit more of the more mustard too, you know, somewhere. Again, go ahead and allow yourself creative justice on this. I was stamping basically in the middle of the night, so there wasn't a lot of thought going into where. Although I have done this sketch with many different stamps, so you could try this same sketch again with many different stamps. This particular card sketch is not a new one. So then I've just picked a sentiment. This is a happy birthday sentiment. And of course, I am being kind of sloppy. When you're working with cards like this, it's a fairly clean and simple card. You want to get things out of your way. And I think I had too much on that surface, which caused my paper to tilt. So sorry the paper tilted while I was working. But I use my Stamp-A-Majig to help me decide how I'm going to place my sentiment down. Now, since the More Mustard is light and the Blushing Bride below it is light, I can actually stamp over those two colors. However, it would be really hard to read the sentiment if I were to stamp over the Wisteria Wonder. So that's what I mean by go from darkest to lightest so that the lightest colors are under your stamp in case your stamp is wider than the white space there on the right. So I kind of hold it for a minute because this is watercolor paper. Now, I made a little mistake because one piece of that more mustard was a little wet. And so the have in have a happy, you know, have happy in it, the have is a little blurred more than I wanted. So before you stamp your sentiment, even though you're using StazOn, give it plenty of time to dry. And then I like to put down little clusters of these flatback pearls. And I just love that Stampin' Up! Offers these sets of pearls in 3 different sizes. And there's 150 in each package. So ask your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator or go to my website. And when you order this, just remember you're getting a lot for your buck. You're getting 150 flatback pearls, all there's adhesive under them, like glue dot quality adhesive. And you can put them down as little clusters, and I really like them as clusters on the card. And I use my X-Acto knife, which I guess isn't perfect, but it works for me. You can use any technique that you'd like. I know some people have the tools that pick up these little things really easy. So whatever turns you on. Just, enjoy putting down clusters. You can put down clusters of 3, 2, and then maybe a couple of ones. I think I might have fast forwarded here, but I did put like one little tiny one in the center of each of those stamp designs as well. But I like to put some of them pearls on the outside, not like in the middle of anything. And here's a piece of that Pear Pizzaz pleated ribbon. And I don't know, again, I think this is a YouTube-itis problem, but for some reason, I actually put the adhesive on the back of this ribbon, which I never ever do. I always put the adhesive on the back of the paper and then wrap the ribbon around. So, this is YouTube-itis of some sort. But however you want to get that on, you'll put it around so that it wraps around the back. And since we're going to mount this, that's not going to be a problem at all. So then I'm going to take some stamping dimensionals for the back of this. Put it down. And I do put quite a few because this is a tall piece of watercolor paper and it's getting stuck to textured cardstock because we ran the base through the Big Shot. So I do put plenty of stamping dimensionals. I also put a piece of tape. This is not two-sided tape. This is regular old Scotch tape. Just because since it's going to be raised up, I wanted to make sure that ribbon didn't release. So I put a piece of Scotch tape on there just to make sure the ribbon didn't lift up if the adhesive got hot or something. And then I'm just going to take all the covers off, which I'm not going to make you watch, and then put that down on the base of the card. And basically that is going to be it. So I've done this in this color palette, and then you'll also see some pictures of another color palette, a little brighter. I finally figured out that the paper was twisted. So I hope you enjoyed that. Come back this weekend because I'm going to be showing you how to use the punch with this stamp set as well. We have a great punch that matches this stamp set and that helps you do some really 3D stuff. I hope you have a great week and that everything is successful for you. Talk to you soon.